All right, I believe we've got our guest on now with us. Okay, we got him back on the news desk here. We're joined by David E. Frost, a Vietnam veteran, health educator, and master fitness trainer, dedicated to helping people stay strong, steady, and independent as they age. He shares some simple movements and habits that support lifelong mobility today. Mr. Frost, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's start off. Why do balance, mobility, and stability become so crucial as we age?
Thanks, Jay. So, my company, Well Past 40, stresses that the rules change as we get older.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not a college athlete. So, as a baby boomer, I've had to adjust my portfolio to invest in the things that are important. None of us want
Mm-hmm.
to fall because there's no good outcome, is there, Jay, from a fall?
No.
And one third of everyone my age falls every year. Every client I work with wants this number, zero, to be the number of falls that we have. Now, you may find it surprising that kids trip as much as I do, yet kids don't fall and I don't fall. Kids don't fall because they're nimble, they have good reaction times. How do I have good reaction times and try to be nimble for a 72 years young guy? Well, by practice, by habits.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to tell you, last Friday, I've got the war wounds right on my hands here, David. So up here in Bismarck, we're right in the middle of winter, very windy day, lots of ice on the streets. I slipped and fell on the concrete and put my hands down and scraped up my hands. So that's inevitable. It happens to everybody. But when you think about it, I'm 55. I'm going to be 55 in just a couple more weeks. Um,
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. When you think about it, when I was a lot younger, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that, I would have caught myself and probably, been able to adjust, right? But now that I'm a little bit older, I just don't have that quickness, that sure fastness of catching myself before I go down.
You know, to your credit, please give yourself a big high five virtually because you didn't break anything. Now,
Yeah.
if you do trip and fall, hopefully you have muscle to cushion your fall and you know how to fall to not break a joint.
Hmm.
Broken hips are devastating for people when they get older. So when you're hey, you're not in San Diego like I happen to be, but we don't have a lot of ice today. Yet preparing for ice and being aware, taking things a little bit slower. But if bad things happen to good people, the reaction time and how you go about responding to a trip is ultra important. So that's a great
Yeah.
example.
What everyday movement mistakes increase someone's risk of falling?
Well, the number one is leaning. As we get older, and some of your listeners may remember the series Laugh-In, and there was this little
Hmm.
shriveled up character, Artie Johnson, who leaned over and he had trouble getting out of his chair. And when people compensate that much, when they forget how to be kid like by staying erect and by being kid like, bad things happen. When you lean over, every step is another chance to trip or fall. So
Hmm.
leaning and forgetting about your center of gravity, we don't want everyone to be a ninja warrior, right? But we do
Yeah.
want people to appreciate not doing things because we're not kid like anymore. We want to be kid like, but our reactions aren't. So if we live for that heavy suitcase on the international airport there in North Dakota, we want to do it appropriately and not lean too much. You don't want to fall into the lap of your seatmate. You want to be safe. So leaning is
Sure.
number one. I would share as we get older. I've got progressive glasses on today. Eyesight, we may want to spend just a little more time checking our surroundings for spatial awareness. Hey, the cat might have moved since yesterday, or the puppy dog, or the rug might be gone and the slippery floor is there for you. So a little bit more awareness is a good start to becoming safer and avoiding falls.
Okay.
So number one is appreciate center of gravity.
What warning signs should people look for that their balance or mobility is starting to decline?
Yeah, it may happen as a niggle. That's a great question. It may happen as a niggle where you stretch and and do that leaning I just talked about that we're trying to avoid, or leaning improperly. But if you are not conditioned to do twisting motions or side to side, people my age, most injuries, believe it or not, are from not being trained moving in this plane or the corkscrew plane. So when people say, "Wow, I got a niggle," all I did was try to reach for something on the upper shelf. That
Hmm.
suggests that we need to invest more time on important things. And I call
Okay.
it, by the way, I call it Chapter 4, I call it accident insurance. So it's important.
It is. Are there simple self tests that people can do at home to check their mobility or balance?
Absolutely. And the best one is, and before we do that, if I can share, it's very important to honor your great toes. For those listeners that have all 10 toes, the great toe, this is not a toe, obviously, it's a finger, but that great toe is so important for your balance. So every morning, after you give yourself a good morning hug, I would stand on one leg even before your first cup of coffee. And I would see if I can
Hmm.
stand on one leg without getting like a drunken sailor. And then, if you're really good, stand on one leg with your eyes closed for 10 seconds. I think everybody can find 10 seconds to evaluate your balance.
Okay. Small posture adjustments or habits that immediately make people safer. You
Absolutely.
mentioned
And
going
here I am
forward, but.
sitting. Yeah, here
Hmm.
I am to reinforce that. Here I am sitting one of the tests on a test called the Berg Balance Scale, BERG Balance Scale. Maybe your listeners can do the Dr. Google and look it up. Sitting, believe it or not, sitting upright just by raising your feet on a stool for 2 minutes. Can you do that? Your core is activated. You're sitting upright. You're honoring the length of your spine. So, isn't that interesting? A simple thing like sitting, and unfortunately we sit a lot, don't we? At how
Yeah, we
you
do.
sit is ultra important, ultra important. So if you have a mirror, look to see if your hips are aligned. Most of us develop over time a forward head posture. Every quarter inch forward is another 10 pounds of strain on your neck. So just being aware of your ergonomics and how you sit before you do any activities. But as you do activities, you could be raising your feet, you could be crossing your legs, those kinds of things. Really important to do a little, a lot.
David, could you walk us through a mobility drill that helps us with stiffness or tightness?
Sure. Here we are sitting. So if I could do one sitting, if folks can do a figure four, you can, let's see if I can. I'm crossing my knee, sitting tall, and I'm pushing down on my
Mm-hmm.
knee so that I feel the nice tension in my hip area and my upper legs. Hips get tight. Almost everyone, as they get older, complains of hip tightness. If you're sitting, use that time to mobilize your hips. Nothing like giving yourself a big hug, and you should. In fact, the doctors have a test for that. The Apley Scratch test is to scratch your back, and with that, you're
Mm-hmm.
activating the muscles that help you stay erect.
One of the things, David, that as a former athlete, and I've just dabbled in things, it's the stretching. The stretching of the leg muscles, the back muscles, even the arms a little bit, but more of the legs and the back. That made me feel so good. If I could just devote 15 minutes, a half hour of every day to doing that, I would feel so good.
Jay, you're absolutely right. Isn't it interesting that we need to do it every day? Our muscles and our fascia, that saran wrap around our muscles, need to be stimulated every day or they tighten. So you're absolutely right. And when we can move multiple joints, just that knee cross, the figure four, I can wiggle my
Hmm.
ankle, one, two, I'm working three joints. And if you have 15 minutes, awesome. But a dynamic stretch before exercise only takes 15 seconds. We all have that time. We just don't do
Hmm.
it as much as
Yeah.
we should.
Okay. Why don't people need a gym or heavy equipment to make meaningful progress, David?
Well, we could argue about, or not argue, but discuss how fit some prisoners can be when they're locked down and they can't
Hmm.
get out to push the heavy metal in the courtyard. They have a small area. You need about 15 feet to check your stability and your mobility to walk with a narrow base, heel to toe, to walk backwards, to walk side to side, to walk with your chin going up and down, and to look left and look right, and then to walk with your eyes closed. So that doesn't need a big box gym. If you go to a big box gym, please go to the functional areas, not the isolation machines that you can work on your boulder shoulders if you want big shoulders, but go to the areas that really help you, the balance balls, the stability balls, the battle rope, hanging from a bar. Those are the things that help us as we get older.
And what advice do you have for adult children trying to help their parents stay active?
Golly, that's a marvelous question. It's a tough one because I personally know that my four parents and parents-in-law each said, I don't want to become a burden to you. But guess
Yeah.
what? Parents become a burden to you. So
Hmm.
with tough love or gentle love, it's leading by example and getting to inspire your elders to be kid-like, to move. Now, we may have to make adaptations and concessions, but the idea is not to throw in the towel, it's to keep moving because it's not a platitude, it's a mantra. Motion is lotion, no matter what your age. To thrive and strive, we got to get people moving.
When you look back across your Navy career, your work in wellness, and the people you've helped, what stands out as the most meaningful part of your journey for you?
That each athlete, and I call anyone that can get up from a chair an athlete, that each athlete is different and he or she deserves an individual training program to help them thrive and strive. So, whether I was working with an enlisted person in the Navy or whether I was working in business, I always tried to uh, find out how to make that person better at that person's goals. And that goes with personal training as well. We want to pick here at this time of year when many resolutions have already failed. I think last
Hmm.
Friday was resolution failure day. We don't want to
Hmm.
talk about resolutions. We want to talk about successful habits. How do we do that? We pick the right goals, we get feedback, and we make people think positively, not negative about what they can accomplish. So, yes, we can instead of yes, but.
There you go. David E. Frost, author of the book Kaboomer, Thriving and Striving in Your 90s. Thank you, sir. We sure appreciate all your input here today.
You're very welcome, Jay, and be safe on those icy walkways.
Thank you very much. I'm going to definitely try. Thank you, sir. All right, 47 minutes now past the hour. Let's take a quick break here at the news desk. We'll be right back with more headlines next on KFYR Plus.